Good evening, Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope. Dutyron checking in with another video tonight. We're going to talk about the Orrin and Orson West case on the 30-day mark. It's the 30-day mark since these two little boys from California City have gone missing. December 21st, 2020, little baby Orson and Orrin were reported missing by their two adoptive parents, Trezell and Jacqueline West. And tonight we're going to talk about the new interview that was conducted by 23 ABC, Bayan Wang. We're going to talk about the hard questions that he asked Sheriff Jon Walker. My name is Dutyron, retired New York City police detective with 20 plus years in law enforcement. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you will get all things Dutyron when I go live or when I upload another video. And guys, tonight I have a special treat for you. Not only do I have a special guest that's going to be joining us shortly, but I have two seasoned law enforcement professionals. One from the federal side. He's a good friend of mine for over 30 years. My friend Charlie Butt was a United States Secret Service agent for over 28 years. And I have with me as well Sergeant Bill Cannon. He's a retired Manhattan North homicide detective. Welcome to the stream, guys. Thank you so much for both of you being here tonight. I know everyone's excited to see these seasoned law enforcement professionals. Bill, how are you this evening?
Doing well, doing very well.
Charlie, thank you so much for joining. You know, we're like old buddies.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, we're like old buddies getting together. So it's a pleasure to have you. But your law enforcement experience on the federal level, it is second to none. I mean, I've seen you at many United Nations General Assemblies. I've seen you in many of the streets when I was a patrol cop, and we were friends outside of the job. So it's an honor to have you in here from South Florida. Thank you for giving us your time on a Thursday evening.
I'm very happy to be here.
Yes. So we had, again, an interview that took place. It was aired tonight on 23 ABC over in Bakersfield. Bayan Wang, he asked some tough questions to Sheriff Jon West. I know both of you guys, Jon Walker, I know both of you guys have seen this interview. I'll start with you, Bill. What was your take on that interview?
I think that the chief is not really answering questions very well. I don't think he has a great deal of experience with dealing with the press. If someone asked me about a case, I would start by telling them the date, the time, and in a chronological way. He was all over the place. And I was just like, you know, that's not how a professional law enforcement officer tells the facts of a case to the press or to anyone else. You know, I would have started off on 12/21/20 at 1700 hours. We were called to the location and blah, 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 blah. And that's how I would proceed. But yet he seems to be addressing the rumors and addressing the social media rumors. That's not his job to do that. You know, his job is to give the facts out, what's going on in the investigation, and what has been done, what do they need to do, what are the results of the things they've done already, and where are they going with this investigation. Addressing the rumors online, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more. I think it's important that, you know, information gets put out to not just the general public throughout the United States, throughout the nation, but it's important for the people that live in California City and in Bakersfield to know, hey, do we have two murderers on the loose? Do we have a network of child smugglers out there? Charlie, what's your thoughts on that interview? I know you watched it because you're a, FBI Secret Service / analysis kind of guy. You're big with body language and looking at what's going on. What was your take on that interview today?
You've got to have faith in your law enforcement, and it starts at the local level. And the chief has to get involved more in the investigation or motivate those who are investigating the crime to do more. I know he's a small department. He has 13 sworn officers, according to what he stated. How many of those are considered investigators? I don't know. I laud him for, asking for help, unlike in, the John Benet Ramsey case where the Aurora, Colorado Police Department did not ask for any help up front and trampled through a crime scene that was just a mess. What he's doing is admirable, but I do believe he has to do a little more. If it's over his head, he's got to come out and say that. He's relying on the Bakersfield Police Department for a lot of things, and that's good because these two young boys were originally from Bakersfield. And did they move to California City? We don't know. That's not ever been proven either way, yes or no. We need to know what they did, meaning the parents, the adoptive parents. A lot of the neighbors said in Bakersfield that they were very secretive about their life, where they would come out in the hallway and go back in their apartment and not even greet or interact with their neighbors, which is very, very strange. Normally, you would interact with a neighbor. Something as simple as a hello, and that didn't even happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Charlie. Hey, really quick for some of the joining people, I apologize. Just give a little bit of a background for the viewing audience, Charlie, on your credentials. I usually, Bill, you know this, I usually toot everybody's horn. I got so excited that I didn't even get to that. Charlie, if you could give the viewing audience, we have about 700 people watching. Let them know what you've done in your career with the United States Secret Service.
Well, my career started back in 1987. I was out in San Diego for a number of years. I worked what they called child pornography cases. Kiddie porn is the more common term today. At that point, we were near the Mexican border with San Ysidro. We worked in Operation Alliance, and you would see a lot of children being trafficked both north and south across the border for sexual purposes, which is a human disgrace. And I can't think of another cause that would be better than to save a child from a sexual predator.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very sad situation. After that, I moved back to New York for a while. I worked in the New York field office. I was in the New York field office underneath Iraq, Melville, Long Island, during 9/11. And after that, I went on to my days as a staff instructor at the Academy for the U.S. Secret Service. I went on to my protective assignment, where I spent most of my time in the Middle East and Africa. And after I got done with that protective assignment, I was lucky enough to be selected to be promoted to the office in Wichita, Kansas, to run the office for the state of Kansas. Since then, I retired in 2015. I started my own business, which was Kansas Tech. And after I left Kansas, I came to Southwest Florida here in the Tampa area. And now I'm the managing director for global protection for Icon Group USA.
Awesome. Wow. What a resume, Charlie. Can you talk to some of the audience about, and I know this is about the boys, some of the presidents that you provided protection for?
I provided protection right up through the end of the Obama administration. Politics for the Secret Service never factors in. You do your job regardless of who the person is, who the protectee is, who the candidate is. If it's a campaign year, the job remains the same.
Right.
You do your mission, you do your job, and it's pretty much yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, and you do what you're supposed to do because that is what this country asks of you. You know, you take your oath and you uphold it. And if you don't want to uphold it, well, then, you know what? Guess what? It's time to go. So that's what the Secret Service is about. It's not about politics. It's not about picking or choosing sides. It's about always doing the right thing.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Charlie, I tip my cap to you for your 28 plus years of service to the federal government and to the United States, the people of the United States. So thank you for that, Charlie. Bill, I wanted to quickly just make a couple of mentions. You had a great show on Police Off the Cuff tonight, so thank you for that. I encourage everybody to go over to check out Bill Cannon's Police Off the Cuff. I'll link his channel in the description, and I'll put Charlie's company that he has. He's got an unbelievable resume of professionals on his staff. But let's quickly look at the interview with Chief Jon Walker from tonight. So I'm going to put this full screen, and we are going to come back and we'll critique it for those of you who haven't seen it. Yes, Charlie, you're getting a lot of accolades in the chat. Everyone's saluting you and saying bravo to you. So let's
thank you.
You're welcome. Let's get it going. I know the volume's not on.
Happened? Where did they go? Did someone harm 3-year-old Orson and 4-year-old Orrin West? Well, let's take a look back. There's certainly been a lot more questions than there have been answers for residents here in California City. What happened? Where did they go? Did someone harm 3-year-old Orson and 4-year-old Orrin West? Well, let's take a look back, starting from day one.
These are two little boys. They're about 3 feet tall. And if they're out there, they're scared.
Any sense of normalcy in the small community of California City was put on hold in a big way back on December 21st.
It doesn't make any sense to anybody, and it is scary.
What doesn't make sense to locals like Jamie White is that 3-year-old Orson and 4-year-old Orrin West reportedly disappeared from their backyard that day, according to their adoptive parents.
I came in the house, I saw them there, went in the house, I came back out, I didn't see them now.
1 month later, there's a $100,000 reward and more than 20 tips to the California City Police Department per day. According to California City Police Chief Jon Walker, 3 of the department's 13 officers work the case daily with assistance from other agencies.
The morale of the community, I can feel it every day that it's becoming more and more frustrated, I believe, because they want to find the kids, and I get that. But the morale amongst my department is pretty much the same. You know, we want answers.
In search for those answers, authorities dug up the family's backyard. They've used search dogs and cadaver dogs. They have searched the homes of more than a dozen convicted sex offenders within a few miles of the home. They also used a search warrant to...
I'm going to stop that for a second. Charlie and Bill, I'll start with you first, Bill. He just said they used cadaver dogs. Cadaver dogs, and Charlie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, they can detect a dead human body. They are trained for that smell. Correct, Charlie?
They are usually any canine is mostly a single purpose dog. Cadaver dogs will only do that. They're not a drug dog. They're not a protection dog where, you know, the uniformed officer lets them off the leash to chase down a suspect and help in the apprehension. So the cadaver dogs are trained primarily for sniffing out human remains.
How many times, Bill, have you used or have, you know, the ESU brought in? I don't even know. Does the NYPD have those cadaver dogs?
No, we actually would use bloodhounds, you know, and the only time I saw cadaver dogs used was at the World Trade Center on 9/11. And they were actually very useful in finding bodies.
Those are from our federal partners, probably, right?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, we saw them on the
FEMA.
Yeah, we saw them. FEMA. Yeah, we saw them on the pulley system going across. Let me just say thank you to Meg Lowe for the $20 super chat. She says, "Welcome, Charlie and Bill." Sibling Style says $5. When was the last CCTV verified of the boys? Seriously, 1 month. Why don't we know this yet? Also, when was the last doctor's appointment? Those fantastic questions right there. And thank you, Ron Daniels, for supporting law enforcement with the $20 super chat. Very good questions there, folks. We don't have confirmation of that. And let's listen to the rest of this because the rest of this interview is really interesting. So here we go, folks.
Take the adoptive parents' cell phones and other items from their house. Investigators have questioned the pair in this room at CCPD several times.
So there's the questioning room, the interview interrogation room. Bill, looks a lot nicer than our NYPD.
No suspect.
It's actually too nice because the interview and interrogation rooms are purposely not supposed to be nice. You
No
know?
windows. First thing I'm noticing is a window.
Yeah,
with,
it's not supposed to be a window.
Yeah, no window. You got well, you know, we
Absolutely
always
no clock. I don't know if there's a clock in that room. There should never be a clock in an interview or interrogation room.
let's take a peek.
Named, no persons of interest.
Yeah, so that's about it. It looks like a small room, but with windows, with sun shining through. Not an intimidating factor to get somebody into.
No.
It looks like
Dutyron, one thing I had said early on in this is that you only get a couple of cracks at the parents. So if they were elusive in the beginning and obviously not telling the truth. So
Right.
they were treated at first as witnesses and as complainants. But at some point, you got to go at them hard. And
Right.
that's usually when you have some evidence that you can challenge them with. And, you know, they can't pussyfoot around. Obviously, now they lawyer it up. But that's going to happen. But
Right.
so you have to judge and make the call. We got to go at them hard now because they're going to lawyer up eventually anyway.
right,
So,
which they are. I believe that they are lawyered up. But I'm going to try to get confirmation of that tonight before this live stream is over. Yeah, Bill, for those of you who are joining, this is full screen Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 25 plus year. I always screw up his years. It's either 27 or 28. I think it's 27.
27.
Yeah. I'll get it one of these days, brother. 27-year detective sergeant. He finished with his last 15 years in Manhattan North Homicide. I know I got that right. He was in charge of his A squad, the A team. So they handled some of the heaviest cases. So Bill was the supervisor, and he has been involved in dozens upon dozens and probably hundreds of homicide cases in his time. So he knows what he's talking about. And, you know, Charlie has served on the federal level with the United States Secret Service, and he's heard everything under the sun because I know that he worked hand in hand with his federal partners, the FBI. Charlie, tell us a little bit about the resources that FBI has available to them. Is it any and all? Is it like no holds barred? What's the story on these type of missing person cases they come in on?
They come in all guns blazing. Basically, what it is, the FBI is a standalone agency. They can do everything on their own. And they don't do everything on their own because they try and be, I guess, a partner is the best way of putting it. You don't want to come in and cause strife, bad feelings, or that, you know, you're making another agency feel that they're not competent or they're inept. But the FBI can do whatever they need to do basically on their own. They have the resources, they have the funding, they have the manpower, they have the analysts, they have everything they need to do without the input of another agency. And that's a good thing. But they're a great agency. They're a professional agency. They do what they do on a professional level always. And I respect them. I respect their agents. I respect their management for what they do. They are willing to help and assist at any point. All it takes is someone from a law enforcement agency outside of their own to ask, and they will do it.
Right. All right, so we're going to continue back on with this interview. I want to just this is where it gets a little juicy here. Bayan Wang asks a couple of really good questions, and he gets an answer pretty much out of the chief that we're all been waiting for. So let's let this go. I'm going to go full screen with this, guys. So if you need to take a bathroom break or anything like that, you could do it.
No one detained, but no one is ruled out.
There is a focus in one part of the investigation on the parents, correct?
Of course.
And that's why Walker confirmed exclusively with 23 ABC News a detail in the investigation that we're just now learning.
Did you guys ask the parents to take a lie detector test?
I'm not going to disclose that.
Not asking if they denied it, just asking if it
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Yes, you guys asked the parents.
Yes, we did.
But Walker
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. They asked them to take a lie detector test, but he didn't say, Bill, that they gave them the lie detector test. And that's
or if they passed it or failed it, they didn't ask them that either.
Now, let me throw a hypothetical, which I hate to do.
Mhm.
I'm going to throw a hypothetical. Now that Charlie's back, I'm going to add you guys back. Here's a hypothetical. If they asked them to take the lie detector test, they in fact took it and failed it, what happens next?
They just go at them harder, and they use that fact that they failed the test. It causes insecurity, obviously, in the person that failed the test, and they're going to go over the very questions that showed that they weren't being truthful. And they'll say, "Well, what are you hiding?" They'll use that as an investigative tool, as an interrogation tool. As you know, it's not admissible in court, but it's a good investigative tool.
Exactly. Thank you, Bill. I was just going to get to that. It's not admissible in court. It's not arrestable. Like a lot of people, a lot of the folks that are out here, there's over 1,000 in the chat. A lot of the emails that I get, the hits on the Dutyron.com website, they ask, if someone fails a lie detector test, shouldn't they be arrested? And that's not the case. It's not arrestable. You don't have enough to come forward with severe charges against them. Just like people say, oh, if someone's lying to the police, isn't that an arrest? You know how many phony reports I got and I took in my time and nothing was done about it? I thought it was a travesty of justice, but it's just not. Bill, anything on that?
Well, if you lie to the FBI, you can actually be charged with lying to a federal agent, but not to a local police department.
Charlie?
The only in the federal system, the only time I have seen lying to a federal agent used for a benefit was years ago. The Colombians were running drugs in Jackson Heights in New York, in Queens. And DEA had a group called the Red Room Group, which is from The Shining, murder backwards. And what they were doing was they were investigating drug murders. And the Colombians told a guy who was a reporter for El Diario to knock it off, stop talking about the cartel's operations in Jackson Heights. And what happened was they sent a hitman up from Colombia, got him to knock the guy off, and then tried to get him back out of the country. But what they held him up on was 18 USC 1001 because he lied on his application for his visa. And while they held him on 18 USC 1001, DEA put together the murder case on him. And in the meantime, they did that. They dropped the 18 USC 1001, lying to a federal agent or lying on a federal form. And then they charged him federally with the murder for hire for killing the reporter from El Diario. So that's what they did with 18 USC 1001 is rarely charged. If you look at the government's records, it is a rarely charged crime. Right. Can it be charged? Yes, it can. Is it used? Rarely.
Yeah. The next thing I would say to this is that, people that are listening tonight or watching, they'll say, well, what if these two lie to federal agents? This is Trezell and that's Jacqueline West. What if they were interviewed at the interrogation by multiple agencies and they were in fact found to be lying to the feds? Would that be something that they could use?
Okay, so Ron, at that point, they can be charged. They can be charged. It's just a matter of also you have to have the U.S. Attorney's Office on board. Will the U.S. Attorney charge them? You can bring anything you want as a federal agent to the U.S. Attorney's Office, and they can tell you no, yes, or if you find more evidence, we will proceed. Those are the three choices. It's a yes or no, or find more evidence and we'll proceed. So it matters. Now, have they been interviewed by the Bureau? I don't know. If they were interviewed by the Bureau and they were dishonest, I would say they prove that they were dishonest and they use that as leverage, obviously, for further charges.
Right. There you
Yeah,
go.
but if they, if they use that, they still don't have the kids. So I don't see what the point.
No,
would
no,
be
no. Well,
to
I mean,
use
at
that.
some point you've got to have justice served,
Right.
regardless of this much or that much. The priority obviously is finding out what happened to the children. And we all know here, as time goes by, the odds that something good or a favorable outcome is happening, the odds are dropping by the minute. And I'm not saying that to upset the family, but it's just the law of averages.
Yeah. Let me continue with this interview, and then we'll continue on. I want everybody to see the rest of this, and then we'll continue this conversation. We're going to go full screen.
Did you guys ask the parents to take a lie detector test?
I'm not going to disclose that.
Look at his face here.
Not asking if they denied it, just asking if it
Yes,
was...
we did. Yes, we did.
Yes, you guys asked the parents.
Yes, we did.
But Walker was unable to confirm whether the adoptive parents, Trezell and Jacqueline West, took or denied the polygraph. Walker confirmed that the parents are currently staying in Bakersfield, while their other children remain in protective custody. Meanwhile, those in Cal City continue searching for the boys themselves.
We're tired. We're physically, emotionally exhausted. We're scared they're not going to be alive.
There were 6 unsolved homicides and 2 unsolved missing persons cases in Cal City when Walker became police chief in 2020. He says they're doing everything they can now so the case of the missing boys doesn't go cold.
We haven't given up. We're still trying. We're still working at this thing actively.
And residents tell me that they're going to keep searching. They're not going to give up. And as you heard Walker say, they're going to do everything in their power. They're going to use all the resources they can to make sure this does not become a cold case. Again, anyone with information is asked to call the Cal City Police Department at 760-373-8606.
All right. So there's the phone number. I link in every one of our live streams. I link we're back on, guys. I link all of the tip lines. And again, it brings me to the point of how important it is for investigators to get help from the public. When cases like this, now I don't want to say this case is going cold. I don't want to get to that. We're not at that point right now. But, eventually these things start to slow down and stall a little bit. And what investigators rely on, and Bill and Charlie can attest to this, on a state, on a local, and a federal level, we rely on those tips. And they're saying they're getting 20 to 30 tips a day. But we rely on viable, good information. We don't want somebody sending our federal partners and our local men and women, they're already taxed in their resources. We don't want to send them out on a wild goose chase. So the tips are important, Bill. Just expand a little bit on how important that is in homicide cases. Maybe you could bring up one that you used a public tip to make to close a case.
Look, tips, 100% they're important. But I also think you have to use something called deductive reasoning, all right? And that can dictate the direction of the case. And in regards to this case, I would be ready, and I'm not privy to all the information they have. I would be ready to move away from California City and have the focus of this case Bakersfield, because the evidence tells us they were never seen in California City in that house. They were never ever seen there from September on. So why are we still barking up that tree unless we have some kind of real hard evidence that they were in fact there? Because the evidence is telling us right now they were never there, unless there's something I don't know about. But from my vantage point, they were never in California City.
It's a telltale sign. Bill, as a retired homicide supervisor, you've conducted hundreds, maybe thousands of investigations in regards to homicides. How often is it that you get a neighbor or somebody, even in a rural, even if you went up to where in West, at the top of the Bronx, where they have backyards, and in Queens, hey, I've never seen my neighbor's kids. It's so rare, right?
Yeah, it's rare, but sometimes in a case like this where people are really upset, there's a 3 and a 4-year-old boy, and they want to cooperate. They want to help you. And all these people from that neighborhood have never, ever seen these kids.
Yeah.
So unless they have some other type of evidence that tells them that, yeah,
Right.
these kids were here, I would move the direction of this investigation to Bakersfield.
Correct. I agree with you 100%. And I know, Charlie, you and I spoke about this. Hey, guys, we have a super special guest who's joining us. I spoke in a roundabout way about this. Joining us live right now from Bakersfield, California. He was kind enough to come on in with his busy schedule. I'm telling you, this for me is an honor to have him in here. We have 23 ABC Bayan Wang joining in on the live stream. Bayan, thank you so much for joining this distinguished panel that we have put together here tonight. Greatly appreciate you. Yeah, you can't change it now that you. It's okay. Don't worry. It's a rookie. It's easy.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. You know, there's a lot of YouTube channels out there, and I've been particularly watching yours as you have all these experts in the field in on it, talking about what may be happening behind the scenes. So thank you, Ron.
Yes. And Brian, I got to tell you, and this is no tooting of the horn because I've seen hundreds, perhaps thousands of interviews in my time. What you did tonight, or what was put up on the TV tonight on the news at 5 was a tremendous interview. And I understand that there'll be a full segment of this interview uploaded shortly or for the viewers to check out. And I'll link that down below in the chat. But you did a great job of asking Chief Walker some tough questions. So kudos to you, Bayan.
Hey, thanks, Ron. Yeah, law enforcement is trying to, you know, they've been trying to do their best to release as much information as they can without interfering with the investigation. Now, what you guys saw there in the 5 p.m. clip was just a couple seconds of a full 30-minute interview with the chief, who actually releases some details that we haven't been able to confirm before. Now, I wasn't with you guys earlier in the show, but if you guys ran the story that I had tonight, the police chief confirmed with us today that they did request a polygraph from the adoptive parents the very next day after the kids were reported missing. Now, while you guys were able to look at the case and analyze, certain things here in the media, we're not. So I should clarify that law enforcement haven't officially named anybody a suspect. They have not named any persons of interest. They haven't detained anybody. But we do know that part of the focus, from what law enforcement has been able to confirm with us, is that the adoptive parents are a part of the focus in the investigation.
Tremendous. Bill, do you have anything for Bayan? This is Sergeant Bill Cannon, retired New York City homicide detective. Bill, that's Bayan.
Yeah. Hi, Bayan. How you doing? One of the things that the direction of this case should be in Bakersfield right now. And the other thing is that some of the evidence that they collected should be back by now. For example, the cell phone records. Some of that should be back. The computer records. Some of the physical evidence they took, whatever tests they were performing on it. Some of that evidence should be back. I don't know. We aren't privy to the results of the interviews, what the West said in these interviews. And of course, that when you ask questions, they give you answers and it leads to more questions. So not being part of the interviews, I don't know what occurred, but asking them to take a polygraph and them refusing or well, actually, we don't even know if they refused. We don't know if they refused, and we don't know if they did take it, if they failed or passed it.
Yeah, Bill, we weren't able to confirm whether they actually took the polygraph. The police chief wasn't really able to confirm anything after that question. But one point you mentioned was you think that part of the investigation, I could tell you that the police chief has confirmed that part of their investigation is in Bakersfield. There are 3 police officers working the case in California City. But the Bakersfield Police Department, as you know, Bill, is a much bigger police department, and they are also allocating their resources to investigating whatever aspect of the investigation may be in Bakersfield. Now, one question I heard on this true crime YouTube podcast in recent days is whether authorities have searched the previous addresses of the West, and it's been confirmed that they have searched those places.
Right. So it's important for everybody to understand is that no stone is going to be left unturned here. It's just that there's not transparency for reasons of the integrity of this investigation, Bill. And I know you spoke on this many times. Now, Bayan, he's in a position where he's reporting. He can't go and, he can ask the tough questions, but it doesn't mean he's going to get the answers.
Right.
Like I said to myself, the questions I want to ask Bayan is like, did you ask the police chief about this private investigator, Bill Garcia? It seemed like he was gung-ho in inviting, and was also in this last interview, he was welcoming other people to help. But this guy like hightailed it out of there, and it could have just been something as maybe his words that were exchanged that he didn't like, the investigator. But John Walker seems like a real gentleman. I mean, I know that he's giving free updates probably on a regular basis to the media because he's making himself available. A lot of these police chiefs and the bigger departments, you got to speak to their information officer, and you get like a prepared statement. It's frustrating for the media. I know that. But, the community there's so much community unrest on this because women want to know, men want to know, do we have murderers? Do we have a network of murderers? Do we have child sex ring going on here? Were these kids sold on the black market?
Well, Dutyron, that's another big question are the financials. And
Right.
that can be done. They probably have a district attorney that's on board via subpoena and subpoenaing their bank records and all of that stuff. Because if all of a sudden they see a $50,000 deposit in their bank account,
right,
how can they explain that? And I'm just throwing that out there. I have no.
This is something. Yeah, this is something that us law enforcement guys will bounce around with each other. I know Mr. Wang here can't really get into even commenting on that, and I know it. I get it, but I'm really thrilled and honored that you entrusted, myself. I mean, we've had the email conversations back and forth. So, Bayan, it's really an honor to have you here, and I think it does a lot of good for the YouTube viewing audience, which is not just nationwide, it's worldwide. I mean, we have people from Africa here. I have Osaka, Japan. I have people chiming in from the France and all over the place. So, it's a worldwide audience. And one other question I wanted to ask you is, did you ever get confirmation from Chief Walker, Bayan, on the amount of children that they, in fact, actually had at the time that this was reported? I know there was 4 removed and put in protective custody, which he confirmed with you tonight. With the segment that aired tonight. But did he ever say to you that there were 6 kids there, including these 2 that were missing?
We asked the chief that. He wasn't able to confirm. I think this huge question, according to law enforcement, what they're saying is, look, from where they are in their investigation right now, there were 6 kids in California City because they haven't released to the media whether they found otherwise, whether those 2 boys, as alleged, never being in Cal City, they haven't found anything definitive that they've released to us saying, yeah, maybe there were only 4 boys out there. They're still saying that the last technical sighting of those boys was by the parents in the backyard that night. Now, I think you guys are referring to that surveillance footage that has made its round online. Initially, in my previous interview with the police chief, he said that he wasn't briefed on that video. He clarified to me in this full 30-minute interview that will be released on my Facebook, Bayan Wang 23 ABC, in about 30 minutes here. He clarified that, yes, actually, they're aware of all surveillance footage in that neighborhood, that he has been briefed on surveillance footage. I asked him, hey, it's being alleged that there was only 4 boys that were getting out of that car. He says, look, I'm not going to sit here and confirm with you because he isn't able to confirm on what surveillance footage is showing at this point. And it should also be noted that our station haven't been able to, we haven't seen that footage with our own eyes. We don't have our own copy of that footage. I'll give you a little tidbit of that full 30-minute interview. As I heard you guys ask this several times, where were the boys last seen? Well, I asked the police chief, where were the boys last positively identified by someone other than the adoptive parents. He said, and this is, I'm saying it here first, they were identified by their grandmother in Bakersfield. That was the last person that positively identified, yes, this is Orson, yes, this is Orrin West, and they gave the chief a specific date. Now, we asked that Chief Walker, well, when was that exactly? He says he wasn't able to comment on that. I asked, hey, Chief Walker, when was the last time that someone other than the adoptive family, other than the grandma, were able to positively identify Orrin and Orson West? He wasn't able to tell me when, but he did say that they confirmed by someone other than family in Bakersfield that the boys were seen. We just don't know when that was.
Okay, well, that's, I mean, again, heard first here. That is, that's big information right there, because that fills in a void of like, hey, everybody was just heads exploding because nobody's really getting a grasp of exactly where and when the last time anybody could give.
Well, Dutyron, that's pretty damn good evidence, because in my humble opinion, the parents are lying. So I don't think they were ever in California City. They are lying. There was no doubt that they are lying.
Right.
So you got to look at it that they were seen in Bakersfield. That's got to be the truth. And everything else, they just made this up, whatever their reason is.
And something I got to preface that confirmation by the police chief is, he said, look, also keep in mind that this family moved to Cal City in September. He said, keep in mind that none of the neighbors were familiar with any of the boys. So they couldn't positively ID any of them because they just didn't have that kind of relationship. They were only there for a couple months. And so, at first, neighbors told police, hey, we've never seen any of the kids. Their investigation actually found a few people who said, actually, there were some neighbors who were familiar that there were children in that household. They just don't know them well enough to say whether this was Orson, whether that is Orrin, or...
Bayan, can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Please.
One of the strongest pieces of evidence in my mind is that the father searched for 6 minutes for the kids. All right. You know why he searched for 6 minutes? Because he knew they weren't missing. That's exactly why. So, if my kids were missing, I'd still be out there searching for them,
Yeah, I mean, Bill, I know you're directing that, obviously not at Bayan. You're directing it so he has a good understanding of what a seasoned homicide investigator picked out.
Yeah, well, Bill actually brings up a good point that there's been a big discrepancy in when the boys went missing, when the police phone call was made, when police got the report, and when police were dispatched. Well, Chief Walker was able to clarify some of that information, which you guys are going to have to tune into the full interview in about 30 minutes here to see.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that, Bayan. I'm going to be definitely glued to your Facebook. If it's okay with you, I would like to link down below in the description. There's over 1,200 people live watching right now. I'd like to link your Facebook down into the description, your professional Facebook page.
Sure.
If that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Bayan, another thing that the father said is when they called the police and the police got to the house, he directed them to search for the kid. The first thing a cop does, any police in any place in this country knows, the first place you search in a missing person case is the residence of the missing person.
Right. Yeah, true.
And according to the father, they didn't do that.
Hey, Charlie, Bayan, this is Charlie. He's a retired Secret Service agent, 28 years in the federal Secret Service. You have any questions for Bayan, Charlie? I know you've been following this closely.
Well, I'm not sure if you've had the opportunity to ask, the adoptive parents, have they participated in the search for the two missing children at all?
Well, My remarks on that can only refer to when the adoptive parents spoke to the media. It was the only time they spoke to the media. That was 2 days after, 2 days after the boys were reported missing, and that was
Okay.
the very question, Charlie, that a lot of community members had there, because their neighbors were searching for these boys, looking in all the surrounding areas, and the community members alleged, hey, look, we haven't seen these parents anywhere during the search. How come the parents aren't leading the search? How come the parents aren't out here in front of the home praying with us for the boys? Well, the adoptive parents, in their only interview with us, told us, look, the reason we weren't able to participate in the search at the time is because we were told by police that we needed to be available for them to get a hold of us to answer any questions. That police told them, hey, we have the very best out there searching. We need you guys inside so we can learn more about what happened. Now, I guess you're asking, since then, have they been a part of any search efforts, as there have been multiple? We haven't been able to confirm because we haven't spoken to the parents. However, we are familiar with a lot of those community members down there who've been letting us know about every single search. Neither of them have confirmed with us either that the parents have joined them. So at this point, we can't say for sure, but those people that are leading these searches haven't told us that the adoptive parents have been a part of it.
Well, I mean, that's a huge red flag. I mean, if I lost one child, let alone two, I'd be out there pounding the pavement 24/7 to try and find them.
Yeah, I 100% agree on that. And I think everybody,
Any parent knows that.
yeah, the general consensus is that that is a huge red flag. I'm going to just revert to the chat real quick. Bayan, if it's all right with you, I'm going to cherry pick one of the or two of the questions. If you guys want to highlight questions in a super chat, that'll make it easier. But if anybody throws up a question that looks good, I will highlight it and put it up on the screen. So let me look real quick. I thank you for being patient, Bayan.
No problem.
Okay. Let's see. Any chat, and of course now the chat's moving like a gazillion miles an hour. At that time, but why now? Okay, so here comes some good questions. Let me slow this down for a second. Have you tried to get another interview from the adoptive parents, Bayan? This is a question coming in from Stephanie Hensberg. She says, has this reporter tried to get another interview with the adoptive parents?
Well, one of the things we first learned in media is to always get contact information from the adoptive, from anyone that we interview. In this particular case, no, we haven't been able to reach the parents because we didn't get contact for them. We did request contact from them when they were initially giving us that interview. They told us, hey, look, we don't have our cell phones because they were taken from us, and it wasn't something that they were forthcoming and wanting to give at the time. So, we were cordial. We said, hey, look, we understand. And we haven't seen them since. Showing up to extended family homes, we've seen some of the stringers in the community do that. And at this point, I could say that we've reached out through social media to extended family to try to reach them. But we've been told, hey, look, we are not an extension. We're not going to play a medium of communicating between you and the parents. So that was kind of a long answer, but no, we haven't been able to interview them since. Have we tried? Yes, we have.
So I appreciate you answering that. Let me just see if I could pick out maybe just one more, because I know you have to get going, and I greatly appreciate you taking out time. You have an unbelievable busy schedule with all the things that you do, and I know you cover the news desk on the weekends, so you're working a lot. I mean, for a young man, you're out there doing quite a bit of work. So thank you for that. Here's another quick question. Let's see what this is. Can the reporter confirm if he ever saw any sign of chalk? This is a big one. Now, I just picked this randomly. I'll answer this for you. I know that he's not snooping around on the property because he's a reporter with ABC 23. The question was, can the reporter confirm if he ever saw any signs of chalk in the backyard on the patio? That's the adoptive parents. that was their thing, that the kids were in the back and they were playing with chalk. People are held up on this chalk thing. Did you ever go around to the back and look in? Do you remember that or no?
Well, I can say that the kids were reported missing December 21st. The first time I was on the story was on the 23rd, which is a Wednesday. We had another reporter end up there on the 22nd of December. Now, when I went, authorities have already been in and out of that backyard. So I can't say whether what they did with anything they found back there. The vantage point from the yard. So I gotta explain. I was able to look into the backyard because the lot next to the parents is public property. So I walked there and didn't break any law. I just looked into the backyard where the alleged where the kids were allegedly were in that backyard, according to the parents, isn't a good vantage point from where the access point is from where I was looking. So I can't really answer that definitively.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much for answering it, nonetheless. But yeah, so my biggest thing is, my sticking points are, listen, everybody in this day and age of social media and transparency with the police, everybody wants answers. The thing that we have to understand, and I think, Bayan, you have a good understanding of this because of your official business. The business you're in is reporting the news, so you do have contact with the police, and the police do tell you stuff. Every once in a while, you may get somebody to tell you something on the side. It's important for the integrity of this case not to get out everything and anything, but because of the way we're humans, and we want to know. There's two little boys, 3 and 4 years old, that have vanished, and everybody wants answers, and it's understandable. And I want to just plead to everybody: if you have information, call the tip line. I link the tip line in every single video that I have. There's two numbers, and then there's an anonymous number to call, and I've specified the anonymous number to call. But I implore people to call in with good information. Don't call in information. I think someone told me this. Put out anything, give out any information that you can, but the more concrete tips that we get, the better chance that we have in coming just across that one little piece that we need, the piece of the puzzle that needs to get solved to have this case resolve itself. Bill, anything you want to expand on that, Sergeant Cannon?
I mean, I just, I think they're ready to move on in the correct direction because, you can chase your tail. And if you don't make a decision, yes, we're going to put all our efforts towards this. It's sort of, and I hate to say it because I could be proved wrong, but just my instincts tell me that California City, they were never there. And I think they got to focus on Bakersfield, where it appears that's probably where the place they were last seen, if that in fact is true. And that should be where the missing person case is investigated from.
Yes. Bayan, you want to let anybody know where they can see you on social media? I know you got a Facebook, you have Twitter. He's got the blue tick on Twitter. He's got his Facebook, the Twitter, and I think you have an Instagram too, or no? But no Instagram, right?
Yeah, no, I have an Instagram. Yeah, anybody is more than welcome to follow me on either of those platforms. On Instagram, it's just my first name, Bayan Wang. That's BayanWang. It's the same tag for Twitter. Most of my updates for this case have been coming from my professional Facebook page, where you guys will see the full interview with the police chief tonight. You could find me on Facebook at Bayan Wang 23ABC. Hit a like, follow me. You'll see all the updates coming in first on that page. Now, when you guys do tune in to see the full interview, you'll notice that a lot of the questions I ask are ones that you've heard in previous interviews with me and the police chief. And the reason for that is because we don't always get a lengthy interview. We call them and ask, hey, look, is there any updates? He says, no. We might ask a couple questions. But a lot of the questions that I've asked twice or 3 times now, I'm noticing because this investigation is moving forward, his answers, the police chief's answers change a little bit because they learn a little bit more. And you'll definitely see that with the full interview tonight.
I'm showing your Facebook page here for the listening audience. This is his official Facebook page right there. And if you go over to his videos, it'll just list all of his most popular and all of the videos that he's uploaded. Here's the piece from tonight's news, uploaded 2 hours ago. We showed that here. Thank you for letting me show that. I appreciate that, Bayan.
Sure.
Yeah, so this is a social. I'll link it all down below in the description. Again, I want to just say a special thank you to, Bayan for taking out his time. Mr. Wang, it is an honor to know you and have this professional, connection here. And anything that you would need from me or my distinguished guest here, Charlie Butt, Bill Cannon, or anybody who I could lend to you. We had the K9 professional from LAPD come on last week, and we have so many others. I have aviation, helicopter pilots, you name it, dog training, everything. So if you need anything from me, just reach out, please.
Hey, Ron, I appreciate that. Bill, Charlie, it's been a pleasure.
Nice to
You're
meet
all
you.
Night.
All right.
Yes. Good night. Take care. Wow. What a special guest. That was awesome, guys. To get a really a bird's eye view. And I'll have him on again as new things develop. And Charlie, I mean, these cases are so fluid. It's sometimes day to day where nothing goes on, and then we can have a stretch. And Bill, you know this to be true as well. We can have a stretch of a flurry of information coming in. So you have to stay tuned. You have to follow the news reporters because they get the breaking news. He was watching my YouTube channel. He messaged me and said, "Hey, I love what you're doing, and I want to come on." And we had some scheduling conflicts happen, within the last 24 hours. But tonight it was hit and miss, and I'm happy that he came on, and I'm grateful that you two professionals were here to ask the tough questions. What did you think of him, Bill?
I think he's pretty good. He asked the right questions. He when he got a no, he rephrased it and
Yeah.
wound up getting an answer. And
I think
that's
he
sort
was-
of the art of questioning.
Yeah, yeah. I really thought he was awesome because a lot of people, he answered a lot of questions, and a lot of people want to know. This is a guy who's there interviewing the police professionals, asking the questions. He goes to Bakersfield, I believe, and goes and gets stuff from the public information. What did you think, Charlie, of Bayan? He was pretty good, right?
No, he's a professional. He's persistent. He's the boots on the ground. Most people in law enforcement don't like dealing with the press. It's just one of those things where you start out in your career and you don't want to be questioned by the press or those outside your comfort zone. But the
Right.
point of it is, he's asked some really good questions, and the questions he asked, if he didn't get an answer to them, he rephrased, as Bill said, he
Right.
re-engaged, and he persisted. And
Yes.
that's what a true investigative reporter does. You keep pushing it professionally till you get an answer, or you get stonewalled and you move on and you find another way to answer what you want. Maybe it's not the guy I'm talking to now, maybe it's somebody else. But
Right.
you be persistent. And if you're persistent, eventually the walls come down. You have to. And especially now, because look at this. You have a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old. They didn't just walk off on their own. A 3-year-old and a 4-year-old don't conspire to leave the household of their parents, adoptive or not.
Exactly.
Their comfort zone is a very small area at that age. And you've got to realize they're vulnerable. These are the best that we have.
Right.
Raise your children. What does every parent want? You want to see your child grow up to be happy and safe. And now you've got a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old missing for a month, and the adoptive parents, according to what Mr. Wang said, are not participating in anything to do with the search for them. That is beyond the red flag. That is a flare. It's a fireworks on the 4th of July, and it's New Year's Eve all combined. It's horrific.
I agree.
Anyone knows as a parent, if your child or children went missing, you would be out there 24/7 doing everything you can until you were physically, mentally, and spiritually exhausted to find them and to engage with people and beg people, please take this piece of paper and look at the pictures. look at who these people are. They're my children. I want them back, and they didn't do it.
Yeah,
It's sad. I'll never fathom that.
it's a telltale sign. Bill, I know that you're sitting there and you're I could tell you just want to chime in. It is just we pointed that out, Charlie, Bill and I, when we first started talking about this case before we went live with it. And Bill, that was one of the things that he pointed out to me, the lack of emotion, the lack of even empathy or tears, or it was like they were putting on the scripted show of,
Right.
hey, I'm gonna let my man take over. I'm gonna watch him because he always takes charge. He seems like a narcissistic control freak. So I'm gonna let him. This is his show. I'm just gonna be here to give him the lady support. And I really, that's the vibe I got from her, is that she was just there like a puppet. Like, he had his hand up her back and she was just like, but I feel they're both equally as guilty in whatever happened, whatever nefarious behavior, whatever happened to these kids, whether they were sold on the for the sex trade, or whether they were, murdered and killed off because they were, as we saw with Michael Valva, they were getting in the way of their fun and their freedom. Like they had no use for an autistic son in the Valva case, and he wound up killing him, making him freeze to death. I got to pay attention to the chat quickly, guys. Thank you for becoming a member. Sarah M., welcome to the Dutyron family. Anybody that becomes a channel member, please send me an email. I will add you to the VIP chat. Charlize Norton says exactly, and they don't even have jobs. That's to add insult to injury. They don't even have jobs. Their job is to, looks like they had a baby mill going on for money. Babies for money is what it seemed like to me. But I might be getting ahead of myself on that. Let me just say a special thank you to 411 Now for stopping in. Thank you for being in here, Will. I greatly appreciate. Oh, that might not even be his first name. I'm confusing him with somebody else. 411 Now, a great YouTube channel. He does cover a lot of crime stuff. I've seen him because some of my fans have asked me to go over and check him out. Dookie 4000, my Patreon supporters. Oh my gosh, the channel members, the moderators, the people who just hang out in the chats and put questions in, and the comment section, and the replay viewers. You guys are all what makes this Dutyron community unbelievable. So I was right. Thank you, Cat in the Hat. Will, good to see you. I know this 56-year-old memory goes a little bit wishy-washy every once in a while. And when I drink too much water, it goes to my head. But Will 411 Now, thank you for being in here. Meglo, all the channel members. I see the chat is just flying. Bayan Wang from 23 ABC in Bakersfield was kind enough to join us tonight. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. Follow me, everything, all one word. It's right here, Dutyron, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Check out my great guest and friend, Bill Cannon, Police Off the Cuff. He does true crime stories and all kinds of great stuff on his Police Off the Cuff YouTube. I was going to say podcast, but YouTube channel. And I will link Charlie's company. He has an unbelievable, internationally known investigation company, and I'll link that here in the chat with so many professionals that are on his board, his executive board. It's just too much to list here. Bill, any parting words? And then I'll go to Charlie.
Yeah, I just wanted to say with Chief Walker, I don't want to be too hard on him. Here's a guy with only 13 cops. I don't know what you can do with 13 cops. I don't know if they close the doors at midnight to 8 in the morning, but 13 cops is not enough personnel to do the job at hand right now,
Yeah. I got the message for Linda. It's a crime. I'll get a hold of her. Thank you for everybody spamming the chat with that. I saw it like 100 times go by, but I appreciate that, guys. I shared my info with her, and we'll get together with Linda. It's a crime. It would be a pleasure to come on and talk with her. Yeah, so the department is 13. Charlie, what do you think they could do with 13 cops? It's like a Malvern Police Department.
They'll do the best they can. You can't criticize them for lack of resources. they made the right choice in reaching out for other agencies for help. And I laud the chief of that department for doing so. The sad part of this whole situation is 2 boys are still missing. We don't know what their status is at this point. We pray that they're safe with whatever situation it is, but we all know in law enforcement, and it's a terrible thing to bring the reality of this to light. The more time goes by, the less likely it is a good outcome for those 2 boys. And prayers to the family, prayers for those boys that they return safely to the proper people who love them. The only other thing that you can think of is, what if it were my children? How hard would you work to get them back? How hard would you try to find the answer and seek justice for them? I mean, a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, and it will make you think about how much you love the children you have in your life. And I'll leave it at that.
There you go, Charlie. Well said. Well said. Sammy C says, at Dutyron, would it be possible for media to reach out to Bakersfield Chief? Bayan has reached out to Bakersfield, and he covers Bakersfield and Kern County, so he is in constant contact with I think it's Corey Terry is the police chief. Bill, you gave that to me before we went live.
Yes.
I wrote it down. So Chief Corey Terry is through his information officer. They got 13 or 1,400 member police department. It's not a small little police department. They do get updates from the what do they call it? The
Deputy Commissioner of Public Information, usually, yeah.
DCPI, the Deputy Commissioner of Public Information. So they have a public informations officer. It's probably not DCPI. That's what our NYPD is called, but it's the same stuff. It's the same all around.
Dutyron, probably to dispel some of the rumors and the need for interviewing the chief, it's probably a good idea for them to hold press conferences on this case to give out new information and to update the press and the public on new things going on.
All right, guys. I think we're good. We went over the time that I wanted to go. There's still 1,300 people in the chat. Let's take a couple of quick questions, and we'll do a round robin table. I'll give the first one to Charlie that I pick out, and then we'll wrap it up. Questions. As soon as I say that, man, they go crazy. Here we go. Robert, that's a great question because Charlie, you got this first one. So Robert123, who's a big supporter of this channel, says, did you guys ever work on trafficking cases? Now, Charlie, I'm a detective. I already heard what you said in the beginning of this. So take it over.
Okay. Yes. Traffic. So when I first started my career, we worked a lot of things: arms trafficking, weapons trafficking, ITAR violations. We worked before anyone knew what a human smuggling case was. I was in San Ysidro at the border working the smuggling of children north and south for sexual exploitation of a child. So yes, we did. We knew what it was back in, we were there when I first got out there, about 1988. So from 88 to 91, when I was out in San Ysidro, even though we were under a drug enforcement authority to do Operation Alliance, we did come across human smuggling, human trafficking, and child pornography, meaning child smuggling for sexual purposes. Wow. And yes, it's existed since the dawn of man. It's like, what do they call the oldest profession? Prostitution. Yep. But what they don't include in that definition is there was child prostitution as well. And that did exist. It does exist. It still goes on today. And where I am now in the Tampa area, that's a big deal for HSI and FBI for the Super Bowl. We get the Super Bowl this year. But along with that comes with the human sexual trafficking.
Right, right. Excellent. Thank you, Charlie, for that. I'm going to grab the next question for Sergeant Bill, who's busy talking with his stockbroker right now. I know he's and it's 11:30.
I was trying to get it on some Bitcoin.
And it's way past your bedtime, so it's 11:30. We got to wrap it up.
My second show of the night, you know.
Yeah, exactly. All right, here we go. So this is to me, Ron. What protocol would be taken if the kids are underwater? God forbid. I could tell you that the protocol for if it's confirmed the kids were drowned and underwater. Let's just say bricks tied to them and thrown down into a pond or whatever. The scuba team would come in and they will handle the they'll handle the recovery. So it would be from either the federal, the state, or local authorities if they have that type of resources. If they don't, they'll reach out to LAPD. I know they have a scuba unit, or the federal partners who are on here definitely have a scuba team, and that's what would happen. It'd secure the scene, and you'd have your scuba and aviation up, and that's what it would be, right, Bill?
That's right. And they would, if they did find them under the water, they would carefully recover them, with forensics in mind for future prosecution.
Correct, because you want to preserve all the evidence. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank my esteemed guests, Charlie Butt, the retired U.S. Secret Service agent with 28 years of service. Thank you, Charlie. Will you come back, please, and join me again?
Anytime.
I think everybody will love to have your insight. Sergeant Bill, you got an open invitation on my channel. I feel like you're a part of the family here. So, Bill, thank you for taking the time. Tremendous. Everybody follow Police Off the Cuff. I will link his channel down below so everyone can click on it and go over there and subscribe. Joey Brooklyn is in the house. That is my director of security. Just in case the two of you didn't know it, Joey Brooklyn. I know, Charlie, your mom still lives in Brooklyn. I'll have Joey Brooklyn do a home check on mom if you need be. He's right there in the Bay Ridge area. So
that's a good one.
Joey Brooklyn is in the house. Go follow Joey Brooklyn. He's got a great YouTube channel. He goes all over Little Italy. He goes all over parts of Brooklyn, and he brings you some great sights. I'll talk to you guys on the next one. Bill and Charlie stay for just a little chit chat at the end. Guys, God bless the world. God bless the United States of America. And most importantly, God bless each and every one of us here in the chat. Let's also think about all the victims of crime and these two missing boys, Orrin and Orson West. May the law enforcement get the strength to solve this outstanding case, and let's bring closure to the family, the biological family. We got to remember that there's people involved. There are victims here. Not only are the two boys victims, the entire rest of their families, no matter how broken up they were, they're victims. So let's send some prayers and love and strength for those police officers and investigators out there and the families. God bless and good night from New York City. Thank you.